Static filled the airwaves as the broadcast came into tune.
Sweet America, hello again. This is President Eden. I'd like to have a chat. The Enclave is back, America. And no, not just on your radio. Right now, Enclave troops are patrolling the capital wasteland. These fine men and women, under the command of the stalwart Colonel Augustus Autumn, have one mission: the restoration of American peace and order. But let's hear from the man himself, shall we, America? I give you Colonel Augustus Autumn.
Thank you, Mr. President. People of the capital wasteland, I am Colonel Autumn. By now you have encountered Enclave troops in your towns, in your settlements. When you see the Enclave, you see the United States government. We are authorized to restore order and civility by any means necessary. Just stay out of the way and let us do our job. Interfere with the Enclave's mission, and you will be dealt with harshly.
Very good, Colonel. Very good. So, there you have it, my darling America. Enclave troops are now in your neighborhoods, in your lives, in your hearts. Together, we'll restore the glory of this great nation, one problem at a time. So remember, America, the Enclave is working around the clock to return this country to greatness. All you need is a little patience, a little faith. Until next time, this is President Eden, signing off.
This same message looped on for an hour. Little by little, the people of the Mojave tuned in and listened patiently. They had heard so much about the Enclave. Was this really all there was, though? A simple looping message? Just as some were beginning to lose interest, an alien voice came through the static. That was the last radio broadcast our president sent out to the people of Washington. 4 years ago. Many of my brothers died as they took up arms against their attackers. Before we could fight back, our president was dead. Before we could get the children away, the colonel was dead. Our punishment for the crimes we committed was absolute destruction and extermination of our people. I hear you asking yourself, what crimes did the Enclave commit? That's simple, my fellow Americans. So simple, in fact, that I think even our enemies will understand. We refused to let America die. We fought against a technological autocracy by trying to free our fellow Americans from their grip. We shielded innocents from the terrors of the waste. On every front, we faced our enemies and sacrificed our lives so that Americans may have a chance to survive. We put 100 years of hard work, blood, sweat, and tears into a gift to give freely to our fellow Americans. My family gave their lives to see to it that no longer would Americans falter under the oppression of false heroes. You may have heard about the recent attacks, or maybe you haven't. Bonnie Springs and Good Springs are wiped off the map, their inhabitants dead or in hiding with us. Their crimes against the NCR and the Brotherhood of Steel was treason. Treason of the highest caliber. Such a terrible crime that the NCR killed women and children as they fled. Tortured captives and executed the injured and defenseless. Yes, I must say, my fellow Americans, yes. Refusing to take up arms as a slave against those that protect you is surely the greatest crime that could be committed. Refusing to be used as a weapon to destroy freedom truly is a great crime. Yet they won't stop there. Not even there will they stop punishing the treasonous. Now they send an army of murderers to Prim, where we have tried to protect those who could not protect themselves. I know many of you fear for your lives, but do not. I am but a single man, America, and I have caused my greatest enemies to shudder in fear. They do not fear my weapons or my skills. They fear the truth I hold. No, they fear the love I hold for America. Even as I speak, they are trying to plan a way to force the Enclave into submission. Yet they still do not understand that there is no lengths I won't go to see that we, as a country, win this. I pause to take in a deep breath. My people, sons and daughters of America, for too long have we been a broken nation. We've been shunned, oppressed. You've been conquered by those you sought to escape. 200 years ago, the leaders of this great nation asked for time. When we went to war, we knew that only the truest of Americans might survive, and the time we asked for was granted by you. You, the strength in my arm, the holders of my dreams. In a time such as this, I vow this much. The history of these days will be written in blood. Throughout America we will be fighting, by crushing the armies of our enemies, by seizing the weapons they thought to turn against us. We will be fighting for our very existence. As we destroy their forces, they will be given the opportunity to parley and allowed to surrender. But if there are those who would deny us peace, refuse us our rightful place on this earth, then we shall unleash such terrible vengeance that generations yet unborn will cry out in anguish. For many lifetimes we have suffered unbearable hardships, banished by our enemies to die from disease, from famine. They've scarred us, they've weakened us, but that time has passed. For too long have we worked away on empty stomachs, slowly rebuilding our strength, our pride, and our nation, only to be destroyed again by our enemies. But that time has passed. Our forefathers embarked on the greatest journey in the history of all mankind, a quest for freedom. America became that freedom. But in the dawn of a new age, we were struck down by our enemies, into a wasteland. This wasteland. This new world changed us. At first it weakened us, but in fact, we became stronger. In the time you have given the Enclave, we have rebuilt our pride. We have rebuilt our strength, and soon we will rebuild our nation. Those who defy us shall face a swift death or a humble surrender. And for those who disagree with us peacefully, we will give them new insights into our cause. Many of them know now what they have done. So through the kindness only a father can have for a child, the Enclave shall grant them mercy. Yet this is not a day for mercy. Today is a day for unification. Today is the day we demand our freedom. On this day we stand united again. On this day, those driven to divide us will hear our voice. On this day we shall act as one. We shall be ignored no more. From the skies we shall smite the usurpers of our great nation. And though they sweep through our land like the sands of winter, never again will we bow before them. Never again will we fail our people. Never again will we endure their oppression. Never again endure their tyranny. We will strike the enemies of freedom without warning and without mercy, fighting as one hand, one heart, one soul. We will shatter their dreams and haunt their nightmares. We shall drench our families' graves with their blood. And as the last breath tears at their lungs, as we rise from the ashes of our nation, they will know that the twilight of a new age has engulfed them. People of America, now is our time. Throughout the wasteland, listeners turned toward the NCR and Brotherhood of Steel, not as civilians or settlers, but as members of a pack. Their eyes drew a predatory gaze as they stood from their shacks, campfires, and ruined buildings. A nationalist spirit of rebellion was burned into the hearts of almost every listener, and the match was all that was needed to connect the burning hearts, a single action to unite them into a grand inferno against the enemies of the Enclave, against the enemies of America. As soon as the broadcast ended, I flipped off the radio transmission and smashed the broadcasting equipment with a hammer. After I grabbed my gun and backpack, I booked it outside and was met with the darkness of midnight. Down in the first camp, I could see dozens of lights, easily 50 or more. The lynch mob was coming for me. I jumped from the stairs of the radio station and rolled down a hill for a few seconds before getting back to my feet and sprinting at top speeds. The NCR and boss were marching straight up the road, which meant they'd not find me very soon, and began a fox hunt. I was back at the foot of the mountain when I heard the yelling and screaming of NCR sharpshooters spotting me and calling out my location to everyone else. They had about 25 players in the lynch mob, and about 50 plus NPCs. Me getting a good enough speed roll to outrun all of them was impossible, but outrunning them was never the plan. I got about halfway between Black Mountain and Sloan before the first lynch mobber was less than 100 feet behind me. I dropped my backpack, turned, and shot the closest fucker in the chest. It killed the fucker, and he raged royally in the ook because it's not fair that he can just turn and shoot at us. I keep running until I came across the quarry and the bodies. Getting to Sloan was impossible. Getting to the quarry was possible. I leapt over the pile of death claws and hit the ground running. After I hit the ground, I sprinted at full speed for about 15 seconds before I realized there was no other exit to the quarry. I stopped in my tracks and turned to see 6 or 7 lynch mobbers coming through the entrance. My only chance of surviving is to solid snake these fuckers. I hip, skip, hop, jump, duck, and dive my way over to the nearest crane. The big machinery hasn't been used since the Great War, or even longer. I look over the crane and get a feel for the stability of it. Spiderboy.aol. I start climbing the crane until I'm about 20 feet up. Now the quarry is filled to the very brim with the lynch mob. Every other faggot is in power armor, and most of the NCR faggots are veteran rangers with a terrible backstory. One guy is literally a one-eyed cripple who is unable to walk, but gets carted around by a trooper because he's a really good shot. I'm sitting here watching them peer around the quarry like a bunch of retards. After a while, they start getting into search groups and start looking for me in the little caves. Bad idea, faggot. You see, there was 1 or 2 players that always metagamed me. And they were at the moment just camping the crane, waiting for me to make some sort of post so they can just magically see me, instead of being a good player and roleplay. I roll for accuracy and speed, crit the accuracy and get a 17 on the speed. I jump down from my hiding spot and shoot the first guy in the face. Get slimed. Nickelodeon. The second guy yells out before I shoot him right in the temple. Apparently every motherfucker around here heard a half a second yelp. Everyone fucking closes in on me. Do an emergency search roll on one of the dead guys. He has a frag. I grab it and chuck it behind me. Kill an NPC and initiate John Wick mode. I'm going from support pillar to support pillar, shooting at the closing in horde. So far I've killed 4 of them, and John Wick mode is only slowing them down. Eventually they're close enough to swing at me. They obviously want to take me alive. Enemy does a speed roll. crits and knocks me out from behind. For about 2 hours in game, I'm knocked right the fuck out. Lynch Mob has taken this time to bitch at one another about how it was their fault that this fascist got this far. Once I'm awake, I get literally bombarded by the edgelords with their snowflake monologues. How could you do this? Why are you so evil? Etc., etc. For about 20 in-game minutes, they are trying to make me feel bad for being my character. Faggots don't get that my character doesn't monologue and bitch like they all do. Eventually the dialogue dies down until I'm just sitting here listening to a couple of faggots, making them feel better about themselves. Eventually Boss Scribe bitch makes her way over. Talked shit non-stop. Looks like we finally caught you. You'll pay for what you've done. Throughout this entire monologue shit show, I've literally not made a single post. They thought I was butthurt. Wrong. What have I done? Bitch spends literally 10 minutes trying to think some shit up. You represent the most hateful and oppressing faction in the wasteland. You've killed people in their name and want to bring war to the Mojave. Too easy. I represent my people. I've killed only to protect my people, and I will bring freedom to the Mojave for my people. Girl stutter types for a while because she's got no clue on how to respond to that. I don't even give her the time of day. Do you believe yourselves to be good people? Do you really think you've accomplished anything by capturing a single robotics technician? They're wadding at Mach speeds. You think that I'm some big bad wolf that'll haunt you in the night, do you? Surely you thought this through. I mean, you do know what you've done, right? Don't you? One of the NCR Rangers steps forward to put in her 2 cents. We've brought an end to your crimes. Really? My crimes? Wasn't it you people that slaughtered an entire town? They started shooting. We had no choice. I laughed in their face. Because you tortured and murdered their mayor. My God. You all really do believe in this false narrative. I giggled and yawned, unscared of them. One of the less cringy boss guys steps in. What are you talking about? You all really do think you're some kind of heroes? You all really do think you're some kind of heroes. You think that people see you as gods. You fucking fools. You aren't the heroes of this story. Some random boss fag punches me in the gut. I fall to my knees and giggle a little for edge points. That's it. Silence me like you did those children in Bonnie Springs. You aren't heroes. None of you are. Those among you who would have been heroes already left your groups long ago. I got back on my feet and smiled at them. I know it's hard to fathom how far you've fallen. Yet I've always known how detrimental you were to our great nation. It's good to finally see you show your true colors. They all were getting their jimmies rustled bad. A very seldom few among them were rethinking the past events. I scanned through the quarry as I stretched my legs. A few hundred feet away I could see Conrad's blonde hair and pale skin just barely visible over a rock. Good. He was there. Meant he knew what was going down. I gotta say, you did pick a beautiful morning to catch your villain. Honestly, I'd rather be playing baseball than be playing the part of the bad guy with all of you. I looked at my pit boy and saw the time. I gritted my teeth and sighed. Just under an hour before first light. What I wouldn't give to throw a football right now. I gulped and took a deep breath. Without warning, I charged the boss scribe bitch and completely knocked her on her ass. She didn't hesitate to shoot me right in the chest while on her back. I dropped to the ground like a stiff log. All of the lynch mob is what the fucking at this bitch. Well, fuck me. The shot to my chest is bad. Really bad. My muscles are tensed up to slow the bleeding, and I'm trying not to panic or let my adrenaline get to my head. Boss Scribe says this, ook. Guess I get points for killing the fascist. All the lynch mobbers saying cheesy shit over the ook and liking each other's posts for about 5 minutes. GM starts typing a post up. As Peter is lying in agony on the ground, all around the quarry, dozens of flares are shot off into the sky, almost all of them coming from the entrance. They all turn to the entrance of the quarry to see Volp and Jackal standing there with almost 100 armed settlers and robots. One of the boss drops his gun and says, "Just a robotics technician." They all get ready to start firing at Volp as they hear a blood-curdling war cry from behind them. Boss Scribe bitch turns just in time to get cut in two from shoulder to hip. When she fell down, a blue vault suit was standing in her place. Attack! The lynch mob turned to find over 100 Legion soldiers, a pissed-off Deathclaw, and the racist vault dweller. The lynch mob didn't have time to get off any shots before the Legion made it a full-out melee. A boss paladin charges at Conrad only to be met by Richardson. Richardson grabbed the power-armored demon by his head and slammed him down. He pinned him with a foot on his pelvis. He let out a huge roar as he leaned down and tore the man in half. He chunked the body at a few NCR fags hiding behind a rock shooting into the fray. I watched idly as Conrad chopped and slashed at everyone and everything around him. For a minute, we had them on their heels, but they had power armor and big fucking guns. Conrad, followed by 3 Legion, got to me and began rallying the troops to protect me. "Goddamn, Conrad, you really got her." He smiled and raised up from behind a dead body to shoot at a few NCR. 2 more Legion ran past the body Conrad was using and clashed with a boss knight who was advancing on us. "Don't worry, Peter. We've got you now. Legion, get some medics over here. The captain's hurt." I rolled to my side as to clench my chest more tightly. "I'm going, Conrad. Once the outside wound is shut, nothing will stop the arteries from killing me in seconds." Conrad looked at me in horror. "What the fuck are you talking about?" I said it myself. They had no idea what lengths I'd go to. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a boss paladin burst out of the bulk of the fighting and charge us. A few of the Legion countercharged but were knocked down. Conrad started unloading his RCW, but it didn't do shit. About 5 yards before he could get to Conrad, I saw Jackal jump on the guy's back with a stick of dynamite. The paladin stopped and tried to get Jackal off of him. Jackal was trying to stick it in his power armor's hatch valve. When he figured it wouldn't work, he wrapped his arms around the paladin's neck. It blew the paladin's head clean off, and took half of Jackal with it. The lines of battle were evening out as Volp charged into the fight with the militia he had put together. Using that, he pushed the lynch mob back and regained ground on them. By the time we had secured our troops and the melee was over, half of us were dead while a third of the lynch mob was dead. We had taken out most of their NCR, but the Brotherhood fags all had power armor. Both of our Centurions were fine, but only 30 of the initial 100 Legion were alive. Volp's men had suffered about 20 casualties. The Igors were serving as cannon fodder in our advances on them. There were 150 of us, and 50 of the lynch mob left. Volp and Conrad are trying to talk to me while Centurion bros are holding the line. God, fuck, he's really fucked up. What can we do? We'd need gallons of blood to make sure he didn't die in surgery. This is a battlefield. There's not a surgery gonna happen, you fools. They spend a few minutes bickering back and forth while Richardson is killing the injured lynch mobbers we captured. Was that really your plan, Peter? Get yourself shot? One hell of a signal. I laughed a little and patted Conrad's leg. It wasn't a part of the plan, and it wasn't the signal. But we had no time. I had to wing it. I forced out a last smile, then rolled on my back, releasing the tension in my chest and relaxing my muscles. I'd be dead in just a few seconds, but not before I saw them, like knights of yore on the horizon. Their name, the Enclave. Their mission, to protect the freedoms of any and all Americans. Overhead, a squad of vertibirds swooped over the battlefield and unleashed a tendril of fire upon the lynch mob. As my eyes glazed over, Conrad picked up his sword and held it up high as he ran past our men and charged into the arms of the enemy. For the Enclave! As he clashed into the boss and NCR horde, all of the Legion and the militia followed him. A few seconds later, a dozen Enclave vertibirds landed and lifted off. After each of them deployed a squad of Enclave soldiers, the Enclave troops smashed the lynch mob and joined the melee with Conrad. It was a slaughter. As Enclave troops slaughtered the boss, they yelled out into the morning light, "For Captain Richardson!" Not a single boss or NCR was left alive in the end, but lying peacefully in a seemingly sleepless state was Peter Richardson, direct descendant of the last true President of the United States. After the battle was over, they crowded my body and saluted my corpse. Richardson, Volp, and Conrad mourned as the Legion burned the dead NCR and boss. In one fell swoop, we destroyed 90% of the player base in the roleplay. Conrad, Volp, and the Legion would join with the Enclave in arms against the NCR and boss. The lynch mob would make new characters and try to fight off the Enclave. I didn't make a new character. I had to bring a chapter to an end, and bring a twilight of a new age into the world. Word of my death spread quickly all over the Mojave. A single flame was extinguished by the dirt and mud, but many more took up my mantle. Soon after, the Enclave began a full invasion of the Mojave. The Legion attacked the dam. From the west, the Legate led a huge attack force. From the east, Conrad and Volp led the militia. From the skies, the Enclave tore at any shred of hope the NCR had. The last of the boss gathered a small group to try and fight off the attackers. Enclave traitors were even found among the weak resistance. Each hung from the neck until dead. 200 Enclave troops were spread throughout the Mojave. In Novak, the citizens came out one by one and surrendered until a few NCR lackeys were left. The town was purged of the NCR terrorists and the citizens were left in peace. In Westside, Enclave troops were welcomed with open arms. NCR and boss refugees were dragged out of their hiding places and executed on the spot for high treason against the U.S. government. Up north, a militia patrol discovered a contingent of NCR troopers who had been harassing a mutant settlement. and due to the loss of the dam were now without large support or orders. A single Enclave vertibird was used to send word to the settlement that the Enclave had ejected most of the NCR from the Mojave. These troops were not backed by any army of NCR fodder. The Enclave wanted no quarrel with the mutants, so the envoy left after relaying the message. The NCR remnants were slaughtered without mercy by the mutants, and an Enclave deserter was surrendered to a militia squadron. In the matter of 2 months, most, if not all, of the NCR had been driven out or killed in the Mojave. A few strongholds were still left, but Enclave and Legion forces rallied together for the ensuing battles. Our Centurion friends sieged Forlorn Hope, and within 2 days they had crucified every single soldier within the fort. After Camp Golf was burned to the ground, Conrad and Volp led a full-scale attack on Camp McCarran. They led a 300-man-strong militia, dubbed the New Enclave Army. Within a day they had dragged out and executed the soldiers, and sold those that surrendered to the Legion. It was chance that it happened, but an Enclave recon team stumbled upon Hidden Valley. An attack force made up of 4 Enclave death squads, 50 militia, 30 Legion, and Conrad attacked the place. The boss truly knew how it felt to lose their families. In the end, only the children of the boss were left alive. In accordance to Enclave law, they were not to be harmed, but instead re-educated in the Enclave school system. Only 2 NCR strongholds were left when the dust of the lightning-fast Enclave tactics settled: New Vegas itself and the Mojave outpost. There was not a chance for either to survive, but a show of power must be made. A simultaneous attack on both would have to occur. Volp led an attack on the outpost with the new Enclave army, while Conrad led 3 Enclave squads in an attack on the NCR at the Strip. They had gravely misread the data and were terribly outnumbered. They suffered several casualties. Even Richardson had been injured. When it seemed that they would all die, the people of Freeside and the Strip revealed themselves. With Enclave armbands and a burning inferno of patriotism, they rose up and attacked the NCR in the streets. The Kings led an ambush against the NCR from the back alleys and roofs. Within minutes, the tides of battle turned and the NCR were all but destroyed in the Mojave. In the end, the NCR was crippled, and the boss was no longer an entity in the Mojave. The Legion was given no land or pay for the blood they shed, but a warning. The U.S. government is back. We will allow you to go through the Mojave outpost to the west, where you can expand and enslave at your heart's desire. But you will not lay a hand on any child. You will surrender any and all children you capture to the Enclave. Our side of this agreement is that the Enclave will defend you if there ever is a time when the Legion is pushed back into the Mojave. We will hold this land against the NCR and slaughter our enemies wherever they are found. Do not make yourself one of them. The Legion didn't even try renegotiating this. They expanded west and left the Mojave to the growing Enclave. But what happened to our heroes? Volp was granted his freedom to do as he pleased because of how highly the Enclave spoke of him. He bred and trained dogs in Prim for a few years, until he got word that an old friend in the east had cut out a nice piece of land for himself. Volp rounded up a few other Legion veterans and headed east with his retinue of beasts and men. The Centurion Bros were promoted to tribunes, and were the only 2 Legion men permitted to treat with the Enclave, other than Kaisar himself. They were announced to be the greatest politician warriors in the Legion. Most of the Igors lay destroyed in the Battle of the Deathclaw Canyon, but through sheer luck, one of the memory drives was found and installed into any Protectrons that were repaired or found. The Enclave rebuilt a Robco factory south of West Side. Hundreds of Protectrons were built. Hundreds of Igors now patrol the Mojave. On almost every corner in a settlement, an Igor is stationed. All crime in cities and towns plummet due to this. The strip was kept almost untouched when the Enclave moved in, except for the Lucky 38. Enclave troops assaulted it and killed whatever was inside. After that, all Securitrons were deactivated and scrapped for parts. The kings of Freeside were given the duty to protect it, along with Igor's assistants, and report directly to the governor of the Mojave. The Silver Rush was ransacked by Enclave agents. The owners of the establishment were dragged out and shot for crimes against the United States. Unlike the Brotherhood of Steel, the energy weapons were studied, broken down, and manufactured to be sold to the new Enclave army. Energy weapons sold by the Enclave were reserved for new Enclave army personnel, and almost all ballistic weapons were sold to the people of the Mojave for near to nothing. No longer were Americans helpless to attacks by raiders. The dam was restored to working capacity, and soon it hit 100% efficiency. Enclave scientists replicated a near-perfect purifier, mirroring the one meant to be put to use in the capital wasteland. Tens of thousands of people no longer drank brown, irradiated water. They could smile and drink happily. Enclave biologists replicated a few species of fish, and soon the Colorado River was filled with the edible fish. Even ghouls and mutants drank from the river, and after they drank, they looked to see the Enclave staring at them. The Enclave directed and moved all ghouls and mutants up to Jacobstown, peacefully. That is where they became an independent city-state. But they still hold close ties with the Enclave. So close that, in the case of a few super mutants from the town, some became members of the new Enclave army. They were equipped with special armor to accommodate their large size. The Deathclaw eggs we found were given to the Enclave, and soon they began breeding a frontline force of intelligent Deathclaws. Some of them could speak a few words. Now we come to our final hero, Conrad, the Vault Dweller who left his home as a conqueror, a champion, and a hero. Now as this story comes to an end, he is a true conqueror, a real champion, and the most renowned hero on the West Coast. But what happened to Conrad? Where has this victory sent him? Will we ever see Conrad again? Conrad left the Mojave, never to be seen in the region again. Some say he traveled the wasteland, destroying anything he deems to be un-American. Others say he traveled to his vault to lead his people to a life of conquest. But in reality, Conrad heads east, where John Henry Eden, the last president, was murdered by usurpers of America. He didn't go alone.